Well, Marissa, are you there? Oh, I can almost hear you. Can you hear me now? Huh. I can barely hear you. Do you hear me okay? I'm going to open up the chat window. Oh, okay. Oh, I guess I can ask you, how's my volume? Okay. Well, I'll give it another minute. It might be just me and you. Are you using the computer mic and speakers? Oh, okay. Oh, that's weird. Can you see my my webcam? Huh. Okay. Yeah. Maybe try to call in. It'll be easier. I can do it a cappella, but. What? Actually, let's go. Aha. Is that Marissa?
Yeah, this is Marissa.
We are getting some feedback.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Give me 1 second. Maybe I'll... Oh, I know why. I think... See if that helps. How about now? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So... how do we do this? I think it's what it's doing is it's picking up the feedback loop is coming from your computer speakers. Can you mute your computer and put the sound off the speakerphone on your phone? Let me give it a try.
Is that help?
Aha! Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I don't need the chat window unless you really want to use it. And I will close that and I'll shrink this. Since it's only me and you, it's a little weird to lecture. So I guess maybe let me start by saying so far you're the only candidate that's registered. We've got a few people interested. 3 that, sent in like a form and said, hey, I want to join Ski Patrol. But you're the only one that went on to, the NSP and set up an account and all that kind of stuff. So far, unless something changes real soon, you're our only candidate, which is actually really good for you because you get a whole lot of personal attention.
Okay.
And if it ends up being that way, if we don't pick up any new candidates, what we'll do is we'll just set up a bunch of tutoring sessions pretty much on your schedule. Some pre-planned stuff, but we'll just work off your schedule. And hey, if you want to get together at 7:30 instead of 6 o'clock, totally fine. One or more instructors will call you, and we can still use this. But I think what I'll do is I'll run through this lecture really fast. Feel free to interrupt. We can definitely have more of a conversation than a lecture. And then let me show you around the different resources that we have available for you and kind of give you like a how to pass kind of thing. So, okay. So I'll hit this, well, maybe I will. There we go. There's the nice fancy slide presentation. So if I can make this work, this is your first training video. I don't know if I can make it full screen though. Let me know if you can hear it.
Not really.
Really? Darn it.
I'm getting little tidbits of it.
Well, maybe I'll narrate then. Do you know the Happy Tree Friends?
Yeah, I saw it a few years ago.
Oh, have you seen this video?
I haven't seen this episode, but I've seen other ones.
So, as it plays, just tell me what you think is real OEC and what's not. That's actually real. You carry an insane amount of gear.
I knew you had to carry some stuff. I didn't know how much.
We don't operate lifts, but we actually, they've offered to teach us how, just so we would know in an emergency. I've always been curious. And they did show us how to operate the magic carpet last year.
The magic carpet?
Yeah, it's like a conveyor belt for beginners. You step on it and it glides you to the top.
Nice.
I learned that the magic carpet is one of the most dangerous lifts that we have. Oh, okay, here's a good one.
Nice.
Yeah. So the real OEC here is that you do have to be very careful with the regulator so that it doesn't break off, and the O2 bottle can become a missile. We have an O2 class, and one of the things you'll cover in there is that you always keep a hand on it at all times, and we will fail. You can fail the course for leaving the O2 bottle unattended. So.
Wow.
But it's pretty easy. If you've ever scuba dived, it's almost identical. Yeah. So they did say provide support above and below the injury, which is correct.
Ooh.
Okay, we don't do that.
A little counterproductive, yeah.
Yeah. You can, however, use a stick. We have other things that are better. Oh. And we do require a special course if you want to get certified for the helicopter.
So there is a helicopter?
The Hill doesn't. There is one. It's operated by Native Air as our provider. So there's two ways to get flight evacuated. One would be helicopter lands at the ski hill and takes you out, and the other is an ambulance comes out and then transports you down to Sierra Blanca Airport, and then you take a fixed-wing airplane from there. There's the O2 bottle. Avalanche is realistic. Chapped lips. Every morning we have a meeting. Fred discusses things you should be doing every day to protect yourself, and one is lip balm and sunscreen. And I've definitely sunburned my lips out there, and it's maybe not the most painful sunburn you can have, but it's unpleasant.
Mm. That escalated quickly.
It's too bad you can't hear it. It is on the YouTube channel, though, if you want to check it out.
Okay.
That may not be realistic.
Maybe.
They got the logo right.
The what? Oh, wow.
Oh, no. Anyway, that's just my way of trying to get your attention. So hopefully that works. But I was actually surprised the first time somebody sent me that like on Facebook or something, and I thought, wow, there's actually some stuff in there that's accurate, like splinting above and below the wound. So I'll go on. This is probably what you can expect to spend this year. Now, some things you might already have, and some things you might be able to save on. Like I don't know if you bought the book brand new, but you can buy it used as well. You already paid your course fee, so thank you, or the NSP thing. Thanks you. At some point, I will ask you for $35 just to cover materials for the course. So there's some first aid supplies and things that we run through by the end. Your NSP dues, they didn't make you pay when you registered, did they?
Yeah, I think it was after I got the invite from the patrol. I paid for a bunch of stuff.
Oh. Okay. Well, so you may have already paid your dues whether you passed the course or not, but we'll make sure that you pass. So, but so they hit you for some of those things up front. So the uniform, there are, and actually I happen to have a black vest with our logo patch on it, the one that was on the beginning. If you want it, I'll give you a good deal on it, but you can also buy them. Mountain outerwear is where most of ours come from, but any black vest with the right number of pockets in it will do. And then you can buy the patch from the patrol. The patch is like $10, I think. So that, might help out. Now, you can also borrow them. The trick with borrowing them is I think we have maybe 2 of each size available, and if it's out, you either got to wear one that's absolutely huge for you, or you might not get one, and then you hang out in the patrol room for the day, or something like that. So it is better to own your own.
Yeah.
Black snow pants is easy. Helmet. Yep. Helmet. Hopefully you've got one. No specific color required. You just have to have it. Ski equipment, obviously. So it does have to be in good repair. Every year you're required to have your bindings checked. That's free of charge for your first pair. It's $5 for any pair of skis after that, and that's just to make sure that they do more than check them. They'll take your skis and they'll totally reset. They'll figure out your new din and they'll set it exactly the way the ski hill wants it. So it's a nice little extra.
I don't have any gear yet. I'll be buying everything. When would I need to have it for them to check that?
Okay, so if you're going to buy ski gear, you do get some pretty decent discounts from NSP. You may, if they've already made you pay your dues, you might be eligible to get the pro deals. So you can look, and if it says you're not eligible, talk to us depending on who it is, because some manufacturers are really strict about it, some are not. And we may, one of the patrollers might be able to help you use a pro or get a pro deal. Okay. So it can be like 60% off. So yeah, that does help, take the bite out of this stuff. And then $40 will be due to the patrol at Refresher, which is in October. And what I would recommend, so last year we got into a little bit of it because you're not required to refresh. However, you're invited to the Refresher, and we'd love for you to be there as a patient. And it is as close to being able to cheat on an exam as you can get, because you're going to see 1/3, all the ski patrollers have to go through and do scenarios on 1/3 of the OEC curriculum. I'll cover why in a minute. But, sorry. So there's a very good chance that one or more of those scenarios that you get to participate in as a patient will actually be the scenario you see on the test. There's good and bad. You can see some patrollers that have bad habits, so you always got to keep what you learned in the course in mind. But you will get to see it repeated up to 60 times. So it's a good opportunity. And the $40, I think our actual dues are like 10 or 12. The $40 is mainly to cover. We have like a catered lunch and some other things that come in, and so it covers that. So recommended, but I also realize that you'll have put in a lot of hours into the course by the time we get to Refresher, and maybe it's time for a break, or maybe you're like, I spent enough money already. But that's kind of where you're at now. After that, the hill will replenish any first aid supplies that you use. So you got to buy a limited number of stuff up front. That's why I put about $60 worth of supplies. You'll want to buy your first SAM splint. You have to buy a CPR mask, a few other things. We'll supply you with gauze and Band-Aids and triangle bandages and all that stuff. And then as you use it up, you just come in the patrol room and get more. So it won't be an expense after the first year. Trying to think of what else. Obviously, after the first year, you'll have uniform, equipment, all that good stuff, and you should be ready to go. It should be like, I don't know, $40 a year for dues, and I guess 60 for NSP dues, and $100, $150 a year, something like that. Okay. So the benefits, and I'm probably not the best person to talk about benefits, but as a first-year patroller, I think you get 10 free tickets a year. So you could use them for yourself to, to not patrol and just go out and ski. But in my opinion, why would you bother? I would just go patrol and not, save the ticket for somebody else. You can also give them away to friends or family or, whoever you choose. So you get, I forget what the discount is, a pretty good discount at the pro shop, and you get you can purchase one meal per day for $2, which is a pretty decent benefit. What else do you get? The pro deals. You get some other discounts over and above the pro deals through NSP. If you want to buy a brand new Subaru, they get you a pretty good deal on that. I used that for the first time this year, and it was almost $3,000 off. So that was handy. There's some other things like that, but those are the basics. Your requirements on the hill are, as a first-year patroller, you're required to do an hour-and-a-half shift every day, or not every, I'm sorry, every day that you patrol in the first aid station. So you can take first shift, last shift, you can take the middle. I would recommend you not do the last shift of the day because you'd miss sweep. And it's good for you. It's a good way for you to learn the mountain, get to know the patrollers and all the other stuff by trying to make sweep every day. So you have to do 16 days a year. That's our expectation. They don't have to be any 16 days. Just, you work them in as you're able. You don't have to schedule it. You show up whenever you're able. Fred's rule is that you are there 10 minutes before the morning meeting, or you call ahead and notify him that you will be late. He gets upset, even though you're not a paid employee. He will get upset if you don't notify him. You are permitted to work a half day, so if you're going to show up at noon, you need to notify Fred the day before. And if you're showing up at 8 o'clock and leaving, say by 1 or 2 o'clock, you need to notify him before the morning meeting. And the reason is it's not like a draconian thing, like we're trying to control you and, set all these restrictions. It's for safety, because Fred is responsible to make sure that every patroller that shows up and gets on the hill also gets off the hill at the end of the day, and nobody gets left behind out in the wilderness. So if you were to show up at noon and not notify him and just go out and ski, he doesn't know we've got a patroller on the hill. And if you were to get, be out of bounds or, in some strange area, fixing a fence or something like that and injure yourself or whatever, we'd have no idea that you were left out there. So he's very strict about that, and, don't blame him. It's for our safety. So, I think that covers that. At any time, if you have any questions, just interrupt. So.
Okay.
This free conference call, obviously you found your way here. This should not change throughout the year. This phone number will be the standard phone number. This code would actually let you in as the meeting host, so you don't need to use it unless you're hosting. Should be every week, but kind of depends on my availability. I will download so we're recording right now, so you're not on camera, but your voice is recorded. We record it, and then I will post the recording to YouTube so that if you want to go back and revisit the lecture later, you can do it at any time. And it also helps people, if you're absent, you can come back and watch the lecture. So this is the YouTube channel right here. The best way to find it, let me see. So it's, you can see it's like kind of a long code. The best way I've found to find it is go to YouTube and search for Ski Apache OEC, and it might take you a little bit of hunting around, but you should find the channel, and then if you subscribe, you'll always be able to jump there. So
yeah, I'm already subscribed to it.
Okay. That's good. Here's the Facebook group. It's also a long code, but there again, go there, search Ski Apache OEC. You should find the group. I think you joined already, right?
Yeah.
So for everybody else's benefit that might join later, that's how you get there. I will post updates. If you have, if you're up at 3 a.m. and you have a burning OEC question, you can type it in on Facebook. And I have asked all of our instructors to please monitor that channel and answer questions, provide feedback or guidance, or, if you're having a meltdown and you're like, oh crap, I can't pass this course, and you're ready to quit, you might get some emotional support there too. So, I've definitely been there. Oh, and so for my background, I wanted to be a ski patroller when I was like 7 years old, and I found out that they got to cut the line. I thought that would be a great benefit, and then I actually got interested in it just as something to do. And at that time, you had to pass Red Cross first aid and CPR, and then I think they gave you a ski test, and that was about it. And I was partway there, and I can't remember. Oh, I know why I didn't finish. The ski hill that I went to most when I was a kid, the lodge burned down and they closed it. So I actually worked there for a year as a rental shop guy. So anyway, I didn't get to do that in high school, but I came back years later as a cost savings because my first ski hill, they would allow your entire family to ski for free. Everybody got a season pass, so it was a way to keep. I have 3 kids, and to keep their expenses down. So I took OEC first in 2006, and I failed the backboard station. And I was all set to go back. You get 1 retake. We'll go over that in a minute. Had my retake set, and then got laid off at work, and my next job was in Florida. So I moved to Florida and never retook the exam, so I didn't pass that first time. I came back to Wisconsin in 2010 and took OEC all over again, and I swore, I just knew there's no way I was ever going to fail the backboard station. And I had passed all my other stations in the practical, so I did amazingly well on the written exam because I'd taken it before. And so got to the practical, passed all the stations, including the backboard. I failed 1 station on a CPI. So CPRs are things that you have to score. Well, actually, I'll go over it in more detail in a few slides. But a CPI is an item that if you miss that 1 single item, you fail the station, regardless of your score. So the CPI that I missed was I forgot to clear the spine, and that was it. So I failed that one. I did go back and retake it and passed. Did really well. Got through my candidate year, all my sled training, all that stuff, and I actually came back the next year as an instructor. Took the instructor development course and all that, and then my second year, my daughter was a candidate, and so she got on patrol when she was 15, and then I figured I'm going to have to drive her to class and to the hill every week, so I just signed on as an instructor, and I've been doing it ever since. So anyway, that's a brief history. Reason I mention it is don't get stressed out. At times it'll feel like a lot of pressure and probably more than you can memorize in the time allowed, and you'll get through it. So a lot of the best of us have failed, including nurses and EMTs and all of it. So these are your other resources that you have. You have the Google Drive. I should have shared it with you. Were you able to access the Drive?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you bought your book, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you give me proof purchase, just send me the receipt or whatever, I will share with you a digital copy of the book. One of our instructors, who's also EMT, went through the book in great detail and highlighted it, added notes, made all kinds of references in there. So his version of it, his digital version, is a great resource for anything that might get you confused. So as soon as it's copyrighted, so I don't want to share it unless I know you actually own it. But as soon as I do, I'll share it with you, and you're good to go. You can put it on a tablet or a computer and take it with you and all that good stuff. So this other one, and I don't know if you've tried it yet, but it's mynspkit.com. And you should have a link and a code in your book. If you bought it used, then you can go buy the code and get it. If you go there, there's games. The most helpful thing I found were the games, just for repetition. They're like quiz games. There's a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game. There's matching. They're a little boring, but the repetition will really help you memorize the stuff you got to learn. So there's quizzes on there. There's what else do we have? There's just extra bonus materials that you can go through that'll help quite a bit. So that is that. Practice sessions on the hill. So We are requiring that you make 80% of the lectures. I forget how many that comes out to. I think there's 20-some. So that would be, 16 lectures that we want you to make. And there are, I want to say there's 4 on the Hill sessions. So we'd want you to make, let's call it 3 out of 4. It might be 6, so it might be, I think I had it in my mind it was 4. You'll need it. I can almost guarantee that unless you make at least that many, you won't pass the course. It takes a lot of repetition, and especially the practical skills or the hands-on skills to be able to get it down. So have you got a copy of the syllabus?
Yeah, I think I saw it, the version 1 on the drive.
Okay. Yep. Make sure you keep it somewhere where you can always refer to it. And, and I know with you're in the military, it might be hard. And we, especially since so far you're the only candidate, so we will adjust for you. I can almost guarantee I can have an instructor at the Hill every weekend. So even the ones where there's not a scheduled activity, you're more than welcome to go out to the Hill, grab, if there's nobody else, grab Fred or Kathy and say, hey, look, I want to work on bandaging or sling and swath or blood pressures or, whatever you want to do. And they'll do it. They might have to, there's 2 risks. They might have to drop they might have to drop working with you to go work on an incident. And the other thing is they might say, you know what? I know you're not certified, but I'm going to supervise you. You're going to come over here and put this bandage on. So you could be pressed into service. Okay. But it's good. So you get good hands-on experience.
What's the time range for that?
It's what?
What's the time range for that? Like between 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. or?
I think I set it for, definitely at 7 because the Hill doesn't even open until 9. So okay. I think I set it for 10 to 2 is a target. Okay. So I'd say get there 9-ish, 9:30. Certainly welcome to show up right as we open. That's fine. And we may stay longer depending on how much we got to get through. And some of them I have Saturday and Sunday scheduled because there's just that much to get through. So when we get down to the really big injuries like femur fractures and collarbones, dislocated shoulder, backboarding, head injuries, that kind of stuff, then it's going to be a long day. So okay. The good news is if you end up being the only candidate, you'll get you get a lot of repetition really fast. So and like I said, anytime you can get out there, just go ahead and go out. They might even work out a way for you to just take a ride on a mountain bike or whatever. I don't think they'll let you bike patrol till you've done a season on the Hill, but there's plenty of stuff to do out there. You could go zip line too. So
cool.
That is not the syllabus. It's a representation of it. Go off the one that's on the drive. So. Okay. I guess the major features are we're off every major holiday. So Memorial Day we're off, July 4th we're off, Labor Day we're off. But we're working around it every other weekend. So I want to say it's a week, maybe 2 weeks before Labor Day, we have instructor refresher. And I have that also scheduled for your written final. So that's also probably your best chance because it's about 3 weeks, I think, before your practical final. And I have them separated by that much because I don't want you to get too stressed out. It's very stressful. And just passing the written and trying to focus and study and memorizing all this material, you don't need to worry about, getting your scenarios right and your approach and all this kind of stuff. And so by giving you 3 weeks, you'll have 3 weeks to focus and really work on the practical side. And but you can show up at the written, take the test, pass it, and as soon as it's over, you've got every Ski Apache instructor on the Hill. It's an awesome time and I would not even be polite about it. I would say, please come over here, help me out. I got to get through blood pressures or whatever you need. I would bug them until they give in and and you won't take that. They'll all be more than happy to work with you. So it'll be your best opportunity to practice. So, then at the end of the year, I have Observe and Assist Refresher. That's on Saturday. Sunday is our On the Hill refresher. And what I would like you to do is, while most of the patrol is out doing you know what, it might change with you being the only person. We might just have you follow along and do what we do. But with you, normal plan is we take the candidates off to the side, give you a mountain orientation, show you the patrol room and the storage room and all that good stuff, where it's at, all the rules of the road, radio protocols, all that stuff. And that's while we're doing our chairlift refresher course. And then we'd bring you out on the hill and you would watch the chairlift refresher. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but every patroller is required to participate in evacuating somebody off the chairlift so that you have the skill. And they're also required to be evacuated off the chairlift so you can understand how scary it is. So we're going to run you up, maybe not this year. It would be at Fred's discretion, but possibly. We might run you up, and certainly by next year, we will run you up a chair, stop the lift, lock it out so that nobody can move it or do anything with it. And we're going to throw ropes over the cable and then hoist the device up to you. You put the device on, and then we will belay you down just like rock climbing belay. And it's a little bit scary, that first leap. Once you're out of the chair, you're dangling by a rope and you're at their mercy and it's like nothing to it. But actually making your brain push yourself off of a chairlift chair, 30 feet in the air, that's it takes a little bit of a leap, but it's pardon the pun. But we also refresh for On the Hillers, we refresh evacuating the gondola. And it's a 70-foot tower climb. You have to rig equipment on, while you're sitting on the tower. You're strapped in, so you couldn't fall. Then you come back down, and then we hoist you up to the gondola with a pulley system, and you sit on the gondola and you evacuate 5 people off of it with a belay system. So anyway, that's what we do there. It's a fun day, and it's really good. Highly recommended. I think we may not require you to stick around for the chairlift evac, but I would highly recommend you do it because you could be there on a day where there's 3 patrollers and you have to do it, and you don't want to be caught not knowing what to do. So anyway, and it's fun. Gets you out in the sun. So that's that. These dates, I did update these dates. So 8/18 is written, patrol refresher 9/15, 9/16, practical exam 10/6. And this is what you have to do to pass. So the written exam, you have to score 80% or better. The practical exam, you have to score 80% or better on every station. And there's normally 5 stations. If you score 80% on all but one station, you're allowed to retake that station. You don't have to retake the entire practical unless you fail all the stations. As a candidate, you're allowed to retake all 5 stations if needed, if you failed all 5. Although it's at the instructor of record's discretion, so it's up to me. If you fail more than 3, I think you and I will probably sit down and go, listen, should we really retake it, or do you want to come back next year? But that should not happen. You should be so well prepared by the time you get to the end that I won't say you'll ace it, but you'll pass without question. So, and we want you to have 80% attendance or better for both. So, any questions?
Nope. Sounds
okay. These are the NSP requirements. You must take the entire course. They don't define what that means, so our interpretation, that's where we get our 80%. You have to pass a written with a score of 80%, 1 opportunity for retake. Oh, yes, special accommodations for disability. So if you're dyslexic, have a reading problem, if you're a foreign speaker, you don't sound like it, but if you have any impediment whatsoever to you taking the exam, we will have an instructor sit with you and read the questions to you. So
I don't have them yet. Good to know.
Well, there you go. Well, now you just blew it because you disclosed it. But anyway, there are accommodations we can take. There again, if you end up being the only candidate and you say, listen, I'm ready to take the written exam, I want to go on this date, I'm pretty sure we can accommodate your date. It's, when we got 10 candidates, you got to all take it together. So you have to pass the practical with a score of 80%. You cannot miss. Oh, yep. I said I was going to talk about it and I forgot. So you cannot miss any CPIs. So as we go through the course, we're going to tell you over and over, this is a CPI. The two really obvious ones that are just absolutely heartbreaking when somebody misses it, there's others, but the two big ones are CMS checks. So CMS is circulation, motion, sensation. You must check, there's certain points at which you must check for circulation, motion, sensation. All three. So you can't just go, oh, CMS check. No, we didn't see you do, we don't know what of those three you checked. So you'll want to say, I'm checking, I have a pulse, so I know he has circulation, I'm seeing him move his fingers, I know he has motion, and I just touched him, can you feel that? And they'll say yes, and you say, okay, yes, sensation. That's passing. If you fail to do a CMS, oh, what's that?
What does CPI stand for?
What does CPI stand for?
Yeah.
Critical Performance Indicator. I'm glad you brought that up because I should have said it by now. So so take a simple station like we used to call it full body survey. Now it is primary and secondary assessment. You might have one station that's only for that, which means, checking out the patient, finding where the injuries are. There are CMS checks that are required. One CPI for that is you have to introduce yourself. So if you don't walk up and say, hi, I'm Jeff from Ski Patrol, can I have your permission to help you out? If you forget that, you skipped a CPI and you will fail that scenario. And it's heartbreaking when it's something very simple like that, and we know that you know it, and you'd never, in reality, somebody would always back you up and say, hey, you're going to need, you forgot to introduce yourself. But on the test, if you miss it, nobody will help you out, and you'll fail it, and we'll say, let's retake this one. So when you take the scenario, and we'll go into more detail on test taking later session, but when you take it, you're always given the opportunity at the end of the scenario to the instructor or the evaluator should say to you, is there anything that you would change, add, or do differently? So if you put the splint on wrong, you can say, you know what, I didn't apply that correctly. I would go above and below the joint. They might ask you to redo it. They might not, depending on time. But you can save yourself from failing that scenario simply by stating what you would have done. You have to demonstrate that you really know it. You can't just say, oh, yeah, I would have backboarded him better. That would not pass. But if you can articulate how you would have done or what you would have done better about the backboard, that would pass. So, any questions about that?
No, makes sense.
And I don't think the challenge applies to you, but if you happen to pass the information on to anybody, doctors, nurses, EMTs are permitted to challenge OEC. If they do, they have to challenge both the written and the practical. They do not have the opportunity to retake anything. So they miss one CPI, they don't put a glove on, they've failed, they have to come back next year. And they will not get credit for continuing ed. Whereas if they take the course, they get, I forget, like 96 hours of continuing ed, I think. So anyway, if you know any doctors, nurses, or EMTs, spread the word. They could come take the course, get their continuing ed, and, be a ski patroller. So that is that. Okay. So this is the big lecture. Every lecture you're going to see is going to start with the objectives. I'm not going to bore you and read them to you, but come back and go over these things. Do you know who the founder of National Ski Patrol is?
mini doles.
There you go. Awesome. That's a great way to start. So you'll be asked that question over and over. It's ski patrollers write jokes about mini dole. You're going to hear it until you're sick of it. But I guarantee you there will be one question on the exam that is a paraphrase of that question right there. So it'll be what was the last name, what was the first name, who was the founder, but it'll be in there for sure. So I think that's the rest. Recognize that Ski Patrol has a relationship with the U.S. Army 10th Mountain Division, was critical in the formation of it. Let's see. I'm just going to skim through these. Any questions on the objectives as I'm skipping over them?
No.
Okay, I'm skipping. Okay, so these terms are you familiar with, especially like assault, battery? I mean, obviously you know, but do you know what the legal definition of those are?
Yeah, so battery is when you touch someone and they don't want you to, and assault's when they think you might touch them or hurt them. Yep.
And assault?
Huh?
Do you know what assault is, or the difference between assault and battery?
Yeah, so assault is when they think you might hurt them, right?
There you go. Okay, gotcha. So, and the way that comes into play with us is, I'll go over it more, there's more detail later, but if a person is unconscious or not competent to grant consent, you have implied consent. Otherwise, or if they're a minor, minors have minor consent. Any other situation, so any adult that's in full possession of their mental faculties and so forth, if you approach them without their consent and they feel like they're in danger, you've assaulted them. If you touch them, even to save their life, you've battered them. And so we just have to, as patrollers, we have to always be aware of assault and battery. If somebody is, cut their hand off and they're bleeding out, but they're in full possession of their mental faculties, you have to wait until they pass out before you can stop the bleeding and save their life, if they refuse.
Wow.
Do you know what abandonment means? In the specific sense, it means when you're in uniform, or if you could be recognized as a medical professional, you have a duty to help a person in need, especially if they request it, and you are not permitted to leave that patient unless your life is in danger. So you're in a burning building and the person has a broken leg, you're permitted to run out of the building to save your own life. Person with a broken leg in the wilderness or up on the ski hill, you cannot leave them until someone of a higher level of medical training shows up and relieves you. Then you can leave. Otherwise, it's abandonment. But I'll go over that in more detail. Breach of duty is when that's similar. That's, you're in uniform. You cannot, if you wear your patrol jacket to the ski hill and there's an accident on the highway, if you get out of the car and people can see your medical emblem, you have to stop and act. You can't pass that accident. Consent, I talked about a little bit. That's when they give you, permission to treat. Duty to act is what I just talked about, where you have an obligation. You cannot leave that person, at the roadside. And negligence just means you have to apply a certain amount of, you have to know your training, and you have to apply your training correctly. You can't put a splint on wrong. You can't fail to stop bleeding. Ignorance is not an excuse once you pass the course. So, we'll go over the types of consent. We'll talk about Good Samaritan laws and what they mean for you. And I'm going to go over those topics really fast, but we'll hit them. So this is the brief history of the early ski patrol. I would know those. Don't spend a lot of time memorizing those dates, but they will possibly come up on an exam. There's pictures of the founders. I believe that's in Vermont. Here's the middle years through World War II, the 10th Mountain Division, and so forth. Might just kind of have an idea about those dates. There is the 10th Mountain Division getting ready. That might have been pre-World War II, so they might have been getting ready to go off into Italy. Here's the kind of the middle years, 1985, winter emergency care, which was the ancestor of outdoor emergency care. And then today we have urban versus wilderness. The NSP is currently in a merger with the National Mountain Bike Patrol. So mountain bike patrollers will eventually be folded into the NSP. Who knows if we might even rename it, but all the training will be unified and all that. So there's an evidence-based curriculum, which is meaning based on observations of orthopedic surgeons. It's not just something we made up. And you're going to need to know this. It's on every written exam. Your position within the U.S. Department of Transportation's definitions is emergency medical responder. So we're at the lowest level, EMR. Then you have EMT, an emergency medical technician. There's 3 levels: basic, intermediate, advanced. Above that is paramedic, and above a paramedic is a nurse. And obviously above all of that is a doctor. Those levels may be on the written exam, so I would spend a little bit of time on those. And definitely, it's like almost every exam, it asks what you are. And a lot of, because the training, if you were to go look at the EMT book, it's almost identical to the OEC book, but you're not an EMT, you're an emergency medical responder. So, trying to drill that in. These are some fancy photos for you. Focuses on training, hands-on skills, and continuing ed. This is how you'll be evaluated. We already talked about written practical exam. This is your cycle. So you're in that very first one now. You're taking the course. Once you've passed OEC, you're certified for 3 years, but you have to do a refresher every year, covering 1/3 of the curriculum. So this year we'll be refreshing Cycle B. And then, so you can see that there. There's your 1-year cycle. And then after that, I think this slide is misleading. It makes it sound like you're required to recertify or retake the course. You don't do that. It just means you start over with Cycle A. So you'll do A, B, C. Or next year, you'll start with Cycle C. You'll do A and then B. And then you'll recertify with C again, then B, then A. Or C, A, B. So anyway. Come on. This is your duty to act. This what I was alluding to before. If you're in uniform, and I would go one step beyond that, if you could be recognized. That could even include if you're wearing a NSP shirt, if you're wearing the Ski Apache Mountain Rescue shirt, you have a legal duty to act. If you're trained and not in uniform, if you couldn't be recognized, you have a moral duty to act. You could save somebody's life. Are you really okay walking away and leaving them to die or lose a limb? But moral isn't going to result in consequences for you other than your own conscience. Non-trained individuals do not have a duty to act, meaning your brother, sister, your dog, any other person out on the hill, they can ski right by somebody with a severed leg and just go, just sucks to be you. We don't have that luxury anymore. So negligence, breach of duty. So performance below your standard of training. So OEC, and make a note of this, OEC is our standard of training. Our standard of care, and they'll put a trick question on the exam, the standard of care is established by the mountain in consultation with our medical advisor. So we have a doctor that we've hired that tells us what we need to do, and we have protocols. Those protocols are a standard of care, and there could be differences. So just remember, OEC is the standard of training. If you perform below your standard of training, so if we tell you in OEC you're never permitted to let go of stabilization of a head or neck injury once you've taken it, if you let go, that's negligence. Failed to perform a promised act or obligation is breach of duty. So you're required, if you're on the ski hill and you see somebody hit a tree, you're required to stop and render aid. If you just go, good one, and go on, that's breach of duty. The reason those matter, let's see if it's here. Well, I'll tell. It's probably in a later slide, but I'll tell you why that matters. The Good Samaritan laws, and now we have a skier's law in most states, actually, but especially in New Mexico. Those laws protect you as a volunteer ski patroller. You cannot be sued. They might sue you. You'll get to court, and you'll say, Good Samaritan law, and the judge will say, see you later. It's maybe not quite that simple, but it's pretty simple. It's your get out of jail free card. As long as you observe your duty and don't act in a negligent manner, you're protected by those laws. So anyway, assumption of risk, that's the skier's code, meaning that these new laws have clarified it, and the skiers assume all risk for their behavior. It goes beyond that now, where there's things like signage, where as long as the hill is marked a hazard, it's the skier's liability to avoid that hazard, which is why you'll hear Fred just go nuts about marking things. So every morning we have that morning meeting, and he's like, get out there, I want you to mark the ice, I want you to mark the poles, secure the pads around all these obstacles, and let me know. We're constantly putting up bamboo to say, don't ski here. And then if somebody does, it's on them. So anyway, that's that. Documentation. I'll leave you to just absorb those points by yourself. I won't read them to you. But the point is, we really need everything well documented. We'll do an exercise later in the season where we'll give you an accident report and have you fill it out. And then I'm going to ask you about the accident at the end of the course and see how much you remember without using that accident report. Then you'll go back and look at the report and go, oh, wow. You'll be really surprised how quickly your memory fades. So this is our scope of training. National OEC, there's our local protocols. Standard of care is where those two intersect. You may see that diagram on an exam. It goes back to way back when we were all members of National Ski Patrol. You are not technically a member of National Ski Patrol. Ski Apache Ski Patrol is the member of NSP, of the training organization. You are a member of the Ski Apache Ski Patrol, and you're a representative of Ski Apache Ski Area. The NSP is no longer it's no longer the organization that it was. It's now strictly training. So they set the standards, produce the textbooks, they put on the training and all that, and that's where NSP ends. And that's because there were lawsuits in the past that threatened to wipe out the NSP. So they said they pulled back, and so the advantage way back when was you used to be able to go hill to hill and you could sign on for the day. You can't do that anymore. You're only a member of Ski Apache, and you show up, you get your 16 days. You can show up extra days if you want, but if you go to Aspen, that's it. They might give you a discount on a lift ticket, but you're not a patroller there. So any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay, and you cannot sue the NSP. You can try, but you can't. So let's talk a little bit about types of consent. There's express consent. That's where you come up and you say, hey, I see you've broken your leg. Can I treat you? And I say, yes, please do. It hurts like heck. Informed consent is, how can I explain that one better? Informed consent is, I may have to come back to this one. And don't rely on me. Let's look it up in the book.
What you're going to do to treat them?
It's where you explain the consequences of receiving or not receiving treatment or assistance, and they they give, that says informed consent, but it should be consent. You make an informed decision. I know, a good example would be, I can splint your leg, would you like me to do that? And they say, yes, I would. I'm not exactly sure how that's much different from express, because we're still going to have them sign a form saying I want my leg splinted. But anyway, implied consent is what you get when somebody's not competent to make that decision. So you ski up on a person and they're unconscious. Well, you have implied consent. An elderly person that may be senile or have other problems. Trying to think of other examples. If somebody's insane, you could verify they're insane. Drunk, you can't give consent when you're drunk, so you have implied consent. That gets tricky because until you actually test their blood alcohol content, how do you know that they're beyond the legal limit, and do you have consent or not? But that's one where, like, a guy is stumbling around, he's about ready to fall off a cliff. Yes, you can run over and secure him so he doesn't fall off the cliff. I would fight that one all day long. And then you have minor consent, which means if you're not 18 years old or older, could vary state to state, but usually it's 18. You can't give express consent, so therefore they have minor consent. If they're with their parents, you need to get express consent from their parents. I just realized it says express content too. They all say content. Well, to afford to. Anyway, are those clear enough?
Yeah.
Okay. The tricky one is you get a 17-year-old on the ski hill with their 18-year-old brother. You may have express consent, you may not. And it kind of depends on how comfortable you are accepting that 18-year-old's authority. So, oops. So that graphic didn't work, but we'll go on. We talked about assault and battery. Do you want to cover it any further, or you got it?
I'm good.
Okay. Judgment. So that means, like everything else, you need to be aware of what you're competent for. So if you haven't done a traction splint for 6 months and you're with me and you know that I do it almost every week, you might let me do it, or you should exercise the judgment to say, hey, listen, would you help me with this? Use good judgment certainly in where you go on the hill. Don't ski into dangerous areas or pursue somebody or that kind of thing. Obviously, maintain your skills. So I'll give you the speech right now. Please come back next year as an instructor. We really need the instructors, so I'm assuming you're going to pass the course with flying colors, do amazing, get all kinds of on-the-hill experience next year. And so what I would beg you to do is go take instructor development in the spring and come back next year as an instructor. And you have to teach can't remember if it's 1 course or 3 courses, but you get your teaching out of your demonstration teaching out of the way. You're certified, and then it's great. We've got you, because as somebody who's just completed the class, you will appreciate how much stress the candidates go through, and you are so much better equipped to help out a candidate than somebody who's been on patrol for 20 years. And your skills are absolutely fresh. And when you do that, your skills will stay fresh every year. So I'll step off the soapbox, but that's my appeal. Managing the medical legal aspects of the accident scene. So, think about, hey, you've got a camera with you or you got your phone with you. Should you snap a couple of pictures to, capture the scene? Should you call management out to inspect the scene, see if they're going to file an insurance claim, that kind of thing. So, any questions there?
Nope.
Okay, I'm trying to get through the boring stuff quickly. This is training. You'll have some on-the-hill training. Actually, if you're never going to be on-the-hill patroller, we will not require you to go down in a sled. But if you want to pull sleds, you have to do quite a few sled rides so you can understand how terrifying it is. It's really scary because once you're buckled in and you can't use your arms and this thing is tilting and it's only going about 10, 12 miles an hour. It feels like it's going 60. And you feel every little bump and crevice and all that. And It's really not bad. You're in excellent control, and all of our sled pullers, they're all really good at it. But it feels, when you're in that sled, boy, it's scary. So we make you go through it a dozen times or so. So anyway, that's that. And then, of course, the practical training and all that. Hey, there's my slide. Patient privacy, you're familiar with HIPAA?
Yeah, I read it.
It's the one that they make you sign the form every time you go see the doctor. So we are absolutely subject to HIPAA. Where this, I'm not going to read you the slide, but where it comes into play is, somebody spots you on the hill. Let's say you have a really distinctive helmet, and they saw you putting on a traction splint, and you're going up the chairlift after that, and someone's like, whoa, did that guy live? Well, you can't answer. Because whether he lived or died is actually his private medical information. The Hill doesn't want you to disclose it either if somebody was to die on the Hill, but you can't even say, yeah, he had a broken arm, it was minor. You can't disclose any information. That also pertains to now, it all extends all the way into the first aid station. So immediate family, and we try to restrict it to one member, they can come in and sit with their family member. Nobody else can come in. We don't like friends to come in, because the first thing they do is take the phone out and start getting ready to put it on YouTube. And that could violate HIPAA for any other patients that are in there. Could violate that patient, their buddy's HIPAA rights. So we're pretty strict about it. You cannot give even the accident reports or anything to anybody but, I would just say anybody but Fred. There's some other senior patrollers that certainly can take them, and if, for example, Kathy, if she asks you for the accident report, you can give it to her. You cannot give it to anybody else, even a lift operator, instructor, nobody. You just tell them, come back later, see Fred, I'm sure he'll get it for you. So hopefully that covers it in more detail than you ever wanted. I think that covers that. Teamwork, obviously, really important. We do everything in teams. The only thing you will not do as a team is the practical exam. Well, and the written exam, obviously. But for the practical exam, you are on your own. Nobody will help you. You'll have a helper patroller who is brain dead and will do anything you ask them to do, even if it's a terrible mistake. So you say put a quick splint on somebody's head, they will put a quick splint on somebody's head. If you tell them to take the patient and put them upside down, lean them against the wall, they'll do it. You'll fail, but they'll do it. But after that, everything is teamwork. So you show up on the scene, within minutes, you're going to have 3 or 4 patrollers there. Somebody will just automatically take over crowd control. Somebody's helping you with the patient. Somebody's getting the sled ready. It's all, So it's good stuff. It's the best group of friends you'll ever have. So chapter summary. Let's run through it really fast. You got Mini Dole, 1938. Remember those. OEC is standard of training. Hopefully I've beat that horse to death. Terminology is the same across all patrols. That's because of the NSP being the standard of training. Local management will establish local protocols and medical's standard of care. Perfect one. Obtain consent whenever possible. So even if the person is in and out of consciousness, still ask them, hey, can I treat you? And that is it. That's your first complete course. So if you got a minute, were you able to get into Google Drive, Facebook, all that good stuff?
Yeah,
how about
everything. Huh?
Okay. Were you able to do YouTube?
Yeah, on the YouTube channel too.
Okay. Oh, perfect. So you're perfectly welcome to log into YouTube, and if you want to start viewing lectures ahead, certainly not required, but you can watch last year's lecture, and we'll still record these and post them, to YouTube as the current lectures, but you might find some extra information that we forgot to cover or whatever. And certainly when you're reviewing for the written or the practical, I would go back and watch those. If I'm really fortunate, we might be able to videotape some of the hands-on sessions and post those as well, but I need more help to do that too. So Let me see if there's anything else I want to make you aware of in here. So you have access to this folder, the candidate resources. You've got study aids. Oh, skill guides. Let's go over that for a minute. So each skill guide is in here. Oh, darn it. They all say copy of. But so you can see, like, for some reason, it looks like they're in reverse order. So let's say I don't think there's any skills for Chapter 1. Oh, I duplicated them. That's why. So let's just pick one. So let's say Chapter 3. You know that you're covering it. This skill guide is going to show you exactly what you're going to be tested on if we test that skill. Oh, this is a good one. So removing contaminated gloves. We're going to have you put on a pair of gloves. We're going to squirt grape jelly all over them and have you take them off without getting a drop of grape jelly on yourself. And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'd have to get 4 out of 6 of those points, and you cannot miss the 2 that are marked CPI. So the first CPI is ensure that you don't contaminate your skin. Might be a good thing. And the second one is just the skill of how to grab, the inside of the glove and make sure you don't touch any part of the exterior with your bare skin. Kind of related. I guess in essence, if you have grape jelly on your hand when you're done, you failed one of the CPIs and you're done. The other one, like if you did not start at the wrist to remove the first glove, okay, so you started in the middle, you did a little funky, but you got the glove off, you would still pass because you'd have 5 out of 6. Does that cover it good enough?
Yes.
So when you take the practical exam, it's going to look almost exactly like the skill guide. The only difference is, like, so if we do a backboard station, there will be 4 or 5 skills on that station, and it'll just be all of those skill guides combined. So you might have 8 or 10 CPIs. So, okay. But you'll want to read these, know them. I would recommend, so like our first on the Hill session will be like the first 4 lectures. Might be the first 12 chapters. I would have read all these skill guides before you get to the ski hill to practice those. So you can certainly practice on your own, and once you've had the demo and worked on it with an instructor and all that, just keep practicing on all these skill guides with any person that's willing. Don't assault anybody, but to the extent that you're able, grab anybody, pin them up against the wall and say, I'm going to treat you for bleeding. Quizzes are here. These are chapter by chapter. And I can tell you so NSP publishes a test bank. And I went through and generated one quiz, or some of these are like where it says test bank chapter 24. That is every single question from chapter 24. And they are almost identical to the questions that are on the written exam. So it's a big task, but if you find yourself with a lot of free time, if you were to go through and read every question in the test bank, you will have seen every possible question on the written exam. So that's the next closest you'll get to being able to cheat. There's the answer sheet, it's the exact same one we used for the written is there. There's some specific ones like just on anatomy, and then I believe might have to hunt for it. Here we go. OEC practice test. So these are custom crafted to have the same exact weighting as the final written exam. So like 3 questions from chapter 2, 6 questions from chapter 7, and so on. They're all a little bit different. There might be some repetition of questions between them, but if you take, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. If you take those 4 and you pass, you're getting where you consistently pass those tests, you have a very good chance, highly likely, that you'll pass the written exam. So I give you those. You can start anytime you want getting through those. The earlier the better, because the opportunity is yours to pretty much read every question you could possibly be asked and have seen the answer before and the explanation. And, if you don't do it, it's on you. You'll absorb enough through the class, but it will make it easier to pass. These are each of the lectures, so as we go through, I do have them posted still from last year. But as we go through the course, we'll post the current, so this session 1 is here, and you can have the slides and review the slides if you want. Last couple of things, here's your syllabus. These are things, if you want to be on the hill patroller, the sled puller, you'll have to memorize all these knots and how to tie a harness on yourself. We'll teach you those, so don't worry about it. And definitely, if you want to look at it, great, but don't spend any time on it at all until you pass OEC. Let me open this one up. These are kind of your basics. You're going to need to know all these things repeatedly. I don't know why it's turning yellow like that. Vital signs for adult, child, infant. These are kind of hard to memorize, so I put them here. Just start memorizing these now. O2 flow rates by device. And I think there's a second page here. So this is probably more of a topic for next time, but this is how I recommend you go through a scenario both on the hill and as a means to make sure that you that you pass your practical exam. So when you get into the room, what I didn't add here is introduce yourself and ask for permission to start. When you get in the room, just say, hi, I'm Jeff Rowland. I'm an OEC candidate. I'm ready to take, Station 4, and just let me know when you're ready. They will give you the whole setup, and then they will tell you, take as much time as you want. As soon as you tell us go, the timer will start, and you'll have 20 minutes to complete the scenario. And you can take we'll get on your case, but if you want to take 5 or 10 minutes kind of looking at things and saying, okay, now I'm ready to go, you can do that. But, cut us a little bit of a break and get to it as quickly as you can. So this is, just start looking through this. We're going to cover these all in detail. Definitely don't forget your BSI. You have to have gloves on. Don't forget it in reality, because I've seen people get blood all over them. Don't forget to put your gloves on for the exam, or you will. That's a CPI on every scenario, and you'll fail for not wearing a glove. I won't read you these now, but they'll make more sense as you go through the course. I think if you start practicing scenarios, like just walk up to a friend and say, hey, look, would you pretend to have a severe cut on your arm, and go through this scenario in this order, and then you do it religiously in this exact order. Now, you can make your own order too, but roughly this order. By the time you get to the practical, this will be so ingrained in your head you won't miss a step. And so that's why I put this one here. So maybe even print it out, cover it in plastic. They can do it. The other thing that I found that's pretty cool. Oh, darn, where is it? It wasn't study aids. You are required to memorize the map of the hill by the time the hill opens, but don't work on that until after OEC. Let me see. I had in here for you, my son, he's been a ski patroller for a long time, and he just took his, passed his EMT course. He might be under instructor resources. So when he took the EMT course, they had this great cheat sheet for him that has like everything in the OEC manual on one double-sided piece of paper. Huh. I am not finding it now. I will repost it because it maybe got deleted or something. But man, that was it was a great I'm not gonna find it. I'll get it later and I'll post it. But I would recommend you download that too. And it's just in little bits and pieces and sections. It covers maybe a few extra things that we're not required to know. But for the most part, it's a great little card that you could just laminate and bring to every class. So, or every practical session anyway. So I think that's it. I think we covered everything. Do you have anything else you want to cover? Questions?
Nope, not really.
Okay. Well, that was an easy enough first session. If you think of anything, hit us up on the Facebook group. And other than that, it's great to have you on. I would say if we get much beyond the next class, if you're the only candidate, we'll sit down and figure out what kind of schedule you want to go through, and we'll just make sure we have an instructor assigned and just do one-on-one.
Okay.
So anyway, well, good luck, and I'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, I do have a session scheduled for Saturday. I'm actually supposed to lead it, but I'm busy on Saturday. The topic of that session is study skills, how to pass the course. Are you okay if we bypass that, or do you want to reschedule?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Okay. I covered some of it tonight. It really is how to study and prepare for the written, but I covered a lot of that, and then the practical. But we'll cover it in more detail before you take those tests. So. Okay, then we'll stand down on Saturday. You can have the weekend off, and we'll hit it again next Wednesday.
All right, sounds good.
Cool. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.